Hello, fellow Earth prisoners. Welcome back to part 4 of my King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard album analysis. I'm back on the couch with my red robe on, and this time we're going to be looking at Float Along, Fill Your Lungs. Before we dive in, though, I want to take a brief moment to thank those of you who have subscribed to my channel. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me that you guys are willing to come back and hopefully see me improve these videos. 11 of you that I know of so far have subscribed as of recording this video, and I really like that because it provides me with the drive and determination to keep improving and get better so that you guys enjoy these videos even more and more. But enough of that, let's get into the album. King Gizzard's third studio album, Float Along, Fill Your Lungs, was released just 7 months after Eyes Like the Sky, which I covered in my last video. The album opens on Head On Pill, which is a 16-minute odyssey, which explores the concept of taking some sort of psychedelic and coming to the realization that the world that you know isn't quite the world that you thought you knew. The song starts with an odd sense of separation with the phrases, "Just yesterday I sat across from my legs. They weren't connected to me. I couldn't see because my eyes weren't in me." The use of the words weren't and couldn't in past tense really gives the description of a past state of being, essentially saying, I wasn't really using my eyes before and I wasn't really feeling the world around me before. But now I'm gonna need you to hold me up straight while I screw my head on. In other words, the protagonist is overwhelmed with this feeling of anxiety at realizing that we live in infinite space on a tiny little speck of dirt, and the infinite space is getting bigger. While we are given these lines of lyrics, the instrumentation behind them consists of a vastly different sound than in previous albums, now consisting of a second drummer, multiple synthesizers, and even a sitar. A sitar is a stringed instrument invented in medieval India and perfected sometime in the 18th century. Throughout the instrumental sections of the song, a somewhat chaotic order is found as the music tries to convey what it feels like when your reality is shaken. But once you've woken up, it's really difficult to go back to sleep, metaphorically. The second verse in the song also conveys the idea of drug use by saying, "Just yesterday I held the cup to my lips, pouring it deep in my throat, filling up me like a black enemy. Hold me up straight while I screw my head on." Later, in the pill section of the song, Stu and Joey both sing supporting vocals, with the general message being, I ate the wrong pill. Now to me, this could be that Stu or Joey actually ate the wrong pill, like they were meaning to take like a vitamin or something and ate a drug that took them somewhere. But I also really like this as an allusion to the Matrix. In the Matrix, after Neo is rescued from the system, there's a brief moment where Neo and Cypher are sitting alone in a room together. Cypher is looking at the Matrix from the outside. In this discussion, Cypher basically alludes to the idea that maybe they both ate the wrong pill. Why didn't I take the blue pill? So taking the wrong pill in this instance is another way of saying I became aware of my surroundings and woke up, and now that I'm awake, I'm freaking out about it and I want to go back to bed because this is scurry. The next song on the album is called I'm Not a Man Unless I Have a Woman. And at face value, this song really seems like it could be about finding the right person and treating them the way that they deserve. But if there's anything that doing these analyses have taught me is that King Gizzard's songs have sneaky faces. The song progresses with Stu singing I'm Not a Man Unless I Have a Woman, and Ambrose singing in the place of a woman, I'm not a woman unless I have a man. And then together they sing to each other, he's 100 pounds of gold and she's 100 pounds of gold. To me, what this is saying is not necessarily that you have to have a man to be a woman and you have to be a woman to be a man, although that's true. In the sense of, if every human on Earth was the shape of a male, then we wouldn't call them males, it would just be a distinctly shaped creature. Because you could argue that we need both for sexual reproduction, but asexual reproduction exists, so it kind of seems redundant. Also, if all of the humans on Earth were female-shaped, well then they'd just be a differently shaped creature. To have both of them makes us the two sides of the same coin. So we can't have one without the other because of comparison. I'm also not trying to say that you have to be a man or a woman. You can be whatever you want. I'm just saying that the difference allows us to see the difference, if that makes sense. And with that being said, it also backs up the earlier lyrics of saying he's 100 pounds of gold, she's 100 pounds of gold. We're the same thing. We're the same thing. It's all the same thing. But we're different because we're different shapes. Shapes. I hope I didn't offend too much of you with this song. It was a weird one. Moving on. Maybe I should make a trigger warning for these videos. Anyway, the next song is about suicide. God is Calling Me Back Home is about feeling suicidal or possibly even a suicide attempt. I haven't quite figured it out exactly. It's kind of a hard song to interpret because God's call can be interpreted in many different ways, and I will leave it up to you to decide what that interpretation is. Leave it down in the comments for me to read later, because this song was a pill and a half, no pun intended, to analyze. I did it for a couple days. That's one of the reasons why this video has taken so long, was because of this song, and it frustrated me. So what I've got so far is that it seems to be about a suicide attempt following a person finding that their lover has taken a new lover, and now he is alone, he is distraught, and after even contemplating the murder of these two, he has decided suicide is the best option. And after going through with his decision to kill himself, he has the realization that he does not want to die, and he hears God's call. All of his hate dissipates, and he realizes, I have a solution to this, and it is just letting go. Again, this is a very difficult song for me to interpret. I have never quite felt that feeling, so it's not one that I can talk about with confidence. But from my listening and my experience with depression, I genuinely think that this is about a guy who has made a mistake. And at the very end of the song, it kind of backs up this notion with a very little bit of, like a tiny little smidgen of audio that says, what happened? Which to me could very well be after a failed suicide attempt, when this person has woken up and they are still alive, and now they're saying, what happened? So drop a comment down low, let me know. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? What are your opinions on the song? The next song that we are covering is going to be 30 Past 7, and at face value it would seem to be a song about Stu not being a morning person. Grumpy, grumpy boy in the morning. In the context of the album though, I think that given what we've just discovered, maybe this is the depressing couple months following a breakup that really affected you. The protagonist of this album is experiencing a sentimental longing for someone to be grumpy too in the morning. There's no one to be snappy towards or bite pieces out of anymore. It's as though this person really longs for the way that it used to be, but we can't change what's already happened. Let Me Mend the Past is an interesting song to interpret. Like, I'm not sure what finally making ends meet has to do with mending the past, but those are correlated in some way, shape, or form. Verse 2 offers tidbits of information regarding being surveilled and watched, as if by a lover who doesn't really hold much trust anymore. The motif of cheating would fit in well here, especially given the previous two songs and the idea that the protagonist's lover could have left for another person. What could have been the cause of that? Maybe she thought he was cheating to begin with, and maybe he was. After all, the song is Let Me Mend the Past. Obviously, this person really thinks that they did something wrong in the past and wishes desperately that they could fix it. But, as I said before, there's nothing that we can do to mend the past. While all this is going on lyrically, The instrumentation of the song itself is a rather happy tune with a sadness that seems to be lurking about. Mystery Jack follows our protagonist after he is finally starting to move on from his failed love, although he is not quite on the mend as he's still pretty lonely. Although he has resolved himself to waking up and trudging on every day. He's no longer suicidal, even though he does make it clear he doesn't want to wake up anymore. He seems to do what he has to do to get by, never really stealing for no reason, only ever if he needs to, and living each day with no real direction in mind, sort of just floating like a feather on the wind. Things are starting to look up in Poppin' My Step, as it seems as though the metaphorical clouds are dispersing over our protagonist's head, and now a little bit of sunshine is starting to seep through. Maybe enough time has passed to allow for a healed heart. But no matter the cause, it appears as though he now understands the power of perspective, and instead of letting those things stop him and bring him down, he's got a fresh energy to attack the problems that life throws at him and come out on top. No troubles in sight, because life's too short. Float Along, Fill Your Lungs is the closer and namesake of the album, and instead of this song being about a psychedelic trip of some sort, it is still psychedelically charged, but it seems to be offering peace to those who have been triggered by past traumas. A variety of different things can come into our lives and remind us of an old relationship or a failed dream. You can see it in the carpet shades, paper folds, or coffee mugs. And when you see those things, those feelings of agony can come rushing back into your heart and make it feel as though they are moments old rather than weeks or months or years old. It can be a legitimately painful and depressing feeling, and in those moments, this song offers the only real thing that it can. All you can truly do is just take a deep breath, fill your lungs, and float on. And that is essentially what this song covers. Just take a deep breath, because everything will be okay. And that's all of them. So, in this album, we have experienced a mind-blowing psychedelic trip. We have experienced a heart-wrenching breakup and a failed suicide attempt. We have witnessed the triumph of time healing all wounds, and we were reminded of the promise of depression, all while being encouraged to move forward and keep breathing, even when it's the hardest. Regarding the Gizzverse, this album seems to shed light on the idea of growth in time, suggesting that even though we as humans suffer through our battles, we typically learn and improve both during and after times of trials and tribulations. We are very resilient, even though sometimes the pain isn't worth it. Living really is the only option that we have if we want to keep our cache of experience. Eventually, the world will be cold and black, but until then, this is what we have. What did you think of this album? Did you hear the same album that I did? Did I hear a crazy nonsense story? Let me know deep down in the comments. Let me hear your stories, and don't be shy to offer your own interpretations for this album. Thank you so much for sticking around this long. It really means the world to me. If you did make it this far and you enjoyed the video, be sure to touch that like button down there. Don't worry, it's consensual. And also be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos or projects I might work on. The next album I cover on the list is going to be Oddments, so make sure you don't miss out on that. And that's all for this one, guys. Thanks a whole lot.